You know that gut feeling you sometimes get? Well, it turns out that's not just a figure of speech. It's actually a peek into one of the most exciting frontiers in medicine right now. This powerful, kind of hidden conversation that's happening between your gut and your brain.
So, let's kick things off with a question that's really turning our whole understanding of wellness on its head. What if a huge key to our mental health isn't actually in our head at all, but deep down in our gut? I know, it sounds a little like science fiction, but the evidence is telling a seriously compelling story.
And look, the stakes here are absolutely massive. That number you see, 280 million, that's how many people the World Health Organization figures are affected by depression worldwide. It's a global challenge, and because standard treatments don't work for everybody, the hunt for new answers is more urgent than ever.
This search is leading researchers to a place they've nicknamed the second brain. So let's unpack what that really means and uncover this secret connection that's at the heart of this whole new field of science.
Okay, so the official scientific term for this is the microbiota gut-brain axis. It's a bit of a mouthful, I know, but the idea behind it is pretty straightforward. Think of it as a constant two-way dialogue between your brain, where your thoughts and emotions live, and this massive ecosystem of trillions of bacteria, viruses, and fungi living in your gut.
So how does this conversation actually happen? Well, the best way to think about it is like a biological superhighway. First, the microbes in your gut are like these tiny little factories, just pumping out crucial molecules like serotonin. And you've probably heard of serotonin for mood, but get this, over 90% of your body's entire supply is made in the gut. Crazy, right? Second, these molecules travel up to the brain, using all these different pathways, like the huge vagus nerve. And finally, your brain gets these signals and uses them to manage pretty much everything, from your mood to how well you sleep. It's just an incredible, intricate system.
All right, so if this gut-brain connection is so incredibly powerful, can we actually use it to treat diseases like depression? Well, that brings us to a radical new therapy that's trying to do exactly that.
As we just talked about, a lot of people just don't get the relief they need from traditional antidepressants or therapy. And this treatment gap is really what's pushing scientists to look for answers in some pretty unconventional places. And the gut microbiome is turning out to be a very, very promising one.
And this brings us to a procedure called fecal microbiota transplantation, or FMT. And yep, it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. The idea is to completely reset a person's gut ecosystem by introducing a healthy, balanced community of microbes from a carefully screened donor. It's kind of like rebooting a computer that's full of glitches with a totally fresh, clean install.
But that leads us to the million-dollar question, doesn't it? Does it actually work? Can changing someone's gut bacteria really truly help with something as complex as depression?
To answer that, we've got to look at the data. A major meta-analysis, which is where they combine the results from a whole bunch of studies, 12 in this case, found a really clear and powerful result. Patients who got the transplant had a large, significant drop in their depressive symptoms compared to the patients who didn't. And it gets even more interesting, because it turns out that how the therapy is delivered actually matters. The analysis found that while taking it in oral capsules worked, direct delivery methods, so putting the sample right into the intestines via something like an endoscopy, worked even better. It seems like getting those new microbes exactly where they need to go gives you the biggest bang for your buck.
So what about staying power? How long do the effects last? Well, the benefits show up pretty fast, usually within the first month, and they seem to be at their strongest between 2 and 5 months. But after that 6-month mark, the effects do start to fade a bit. This kind of suggests that a single treatment might not be a permanent fix.
The study's authors wrapped up their findings with this key quote. They basically conclude that FMT is a promising adjunctive therapy, which means it could be used alongside other treatments. And what's really fascinating is that the effect was even stronger in patients who also had irritable bowel syndrome, or IBS, which is itself a known disorder of that gut-brain axis.
But, and this is a really, really important but, we have to pump the brakes a little. The researchers themselves are quick to point out some big caveats. This is still a super new field. There's a lot of variation between all the different studies, and the overall certainty of the evidence right now is rated as low to very low. We are definitely at the beginning of this journey, not the end.
Okay, so far we've been focused a lot on depression, but the influence of your gut doesn't just stop there. So let's zoom back out and see how this amazing axis also has a profound impact on something we all do every single day: sleep.
Yeah. It turns out that exact same communication highway we were talking about, the one linking your gut and brain, doesn't just influence how you feel.
It's also critical for regulating your body's internal clock, your circadian rhythm, which is what controls when you feel sleepy and when you feel awake. And what's wild is that this is a complete two-way street. A bad night's sleep can directly harm your gut by reducing the good bacteria. But it also goes the other way. An unhealthy gut, what scientists call dysbiosis, can mess with the very chemicals your brain needs for good sleep, like serotonin. It can become a vicious cycle really, really fast.
Let me give you a few quick examples. Fragmented sleep, waking up a lot, can decrease beneficial bacteria. Not getting enough sleep at all can lower the production of helpful anti-inflammatory compounds in your gut. And even something simple like jet lag, which throws off your internal clock, can throw your entire gut ecosystem way out of balance. So, where does all of this leave us? What's the big takeaway from all this incredible new science? Well, it points to a brand new future for medicine. One that sees the gut not just as an organ for digestion, but as a kind of command center for our overall health.
If you remember one thing from this, let it be this. Our gut health is not a side issue. It is absolutely central to our mental and our physical well-being. The health of those trillions of microbes inside of us is directly wired to the health of our mind.
And what's so exciting is that this new understanding is unlocking a whole new toolbox of potential therapies. Beyond something as drastic as FMT, researchers are looking into much more targeted approaches. Probiotics to add good bacteria, prebiotics to feed the good ones you already have, and even postbiotics, which are the useful compounds those little microbes produce for us. The possibilities are just expanding like crazy.
This quote from one of the sources we looked at really captures the optimism in the field. It says that as we keep unraveling this link, it paves the way for totally tailored therapies that use the microbiome to improve both sleep and our health in general.
And that's really the bigger picture here. This research is fundamentally transforming how we think about health. It's pushing medicine away from just treating isolated symptoms and moving us towards a more holistic, more personalized future, where your treatment could be designed for your unique gut.
And all that leaves us with one final, fascinating question to think about. As this science keeps moving faster and faster, is it possible that the future of mental health treatment will be found not just on the shelves of a pharmacy, but by looking deep inside ourselves at the hidden world of our own microbiology?